I've just eaten chocolate, so I probably got it all over my teeth. And I'm hitting the boot of the XC. Hang on. Alright. Welcome to part 19 of our little Mitsubishi Sigma makeover. In this one we have a look at a whole bunch of parts, the clutch and all that sort of business, and put it all back in onto the engine. We put the gearbox back on, we fill it with oil, we stick the engine and gearbox back in the car. And we've done it in some pretty adverse conditions because I was half outside, given the room. It kept raining, so I couldn't put the Plymouth outside because there's no glass and all the stuff's in it and all that sort of stuff. So I was kind of half in and out of the garage. The boom on the cherry picker was hitting the roof or the door. It was above the door. And the legs for the cherry picker were hitting the control arms on the car. It was just rubbish the way I did it. But we got it done really quickly, which is good. When you do an engine, always have a couple of people with you. Don't do it the way I did, because don't follow my example. Not very good. But it all worked out well in the end. So, is there anything else I need to tell you? Yes, there is. Normally, normally with an engine video, you might show it being jacked up and swaying around the chain, and you sort of lower it a bit, like that. And then when you get it down, you film it going down, and you're in and out of it really quickly. I never spend much time putting engines in. If it looks like it's going to be long, a ditch. Come back when I'm in the mood, and it just all goes in well. This one I've shown a lot of footage. It's probably 20 minutes of footage just on the engine, putting it in. And I thought, you know what? I'll show the whole thing. I mean, why not? So, that being said, hope you enjoy. G'day. It is Sunday, and I uploaded last night. So this is the first bit of the new chapter. And I wanted to say, I don't want to bang on about carburetors because all the YouTube people under the sun that muck around with internal combustions, all they do is just go on about carburetors and pulling it apart and all that sort of stuff. What is quite surprising is, given the amount of corrosion in the block, I'd have thought the unions would all be cactus, and they're not. You can see here, in beautiful shape, it hasn't even misshapen any of these. The only union on the engine which was knackered, well, not really knackered, but it's not very good, is the one on top of the intake manifold. The rest of them are all good. And of course also that heater pipe. But the important ones like that are all really, really good. The other thing that's disconcerting about the valve regrind set that I got, this is a really, really good valve regrind set, to the point where they've even included the O-ring for the air filter. But they didn't include one. There's several carby gaskets and that sort of stuff. They didn't include an O-ring for the distributor. So the one I've put in is a little bit kind of dubious, do you know what I mean? So this is the gasket, which feels a bit small, I must say. I'm not sure about that. Is that the right one? Looks like it is. That's the heater thing there, or the, what do you call it, that thing? That being said, it's not interfering, so that will fit. So I think we'll pop the carby on, and I need to plumb it. The only bit of Permatex, pardon me, we're going to stick on is just around that coolant passage there. So we're not going to stick it around the rest of it, just that little bit there, and also on the intake. I'm really looking forward to putting this in, just because I've got pretty much everything now that I need. Oh boy, so is that going to fit like that? I think it does. No, that's right. Looks like it's off. So we stick this guy on here. The thing with the carby though, you've got to sort of put these on. Well, lock washers, of course you've got to put them on, but you've got to put the nuts on before the carburetor's all the way down, because there's no, or insufficient reach on them, if you know what I mean. There's castings and all that sort of stuff just above it. So you're going to kind of get those on and start them up. It's a bit fiddly, but there's not that much work in sticking a carburetor on, so I think I'm going to turn the camera off and continue with this. Right, Mitsubishi mechanics. The manual shows the tubing on the turbo really clearly, but not the 2 litre 2.6 normally aspirated engine. Vac advance comes down into the T-junction. One of them goes in the front port of the carby. The other one comes around and goes off to the canister purge. The EGR, this one rear one, comes into the manifold. It shows it in the side of the carburetor, but there's no port up there. there's nothing up there that it can connect to, so I'm tipping it goes into manifold vacuum. One of them goes into this guy here, which I don't even know what that is, and this one goes off to a thermal switch. And the only other ones that I'm pretty sure I got right, this one down in the base of the manifold here goes into the rock cover. I think that's right, but can you advise me? Rightio, so Thermowax coolant lines are here, not wrapped in that really. I've oriented this as best I can. It's as good as I can get. The ones that were on there were no better anyway. So I think that's going to be it for the plumbing for now. We've still got to work out, there's a triple fuel line sort of canister thing sits on the side. I can't remember which ones go where, but I'll figure that out. The other thing of these clamps, these are the ones here which have, can we focus on that? A longer tongue. You can see it going around the inside, right up the side to the top that's sitting at about 1 o'clock. Can we focus on that? That will ensure when you tighten it, you don't sort of grate the coolant hose out of those slats, if you know what I mean, or out of those, can we see one? Yeah, in there. So it won't sort of come out like cheese grater, if you know what I mean. Difficult getting focus these days, isn't it? Right, so moving ahead, we've got the flywheel here. We've taken the tail shaft apart, did I mention that? So I'll put some new unis on that. Didn't like the ones that came out. They were missing their rubber sort of seal and they're a little bit rusty inside and that sort of thing. This is the flywheel. It's been machined. You can see the machine marks that are sort of run into it. A couple of hot spots there. And hot spots are little blue things that are circular, although, yeah. So here are hot spots here. There. That will be from either Savage clutch use, which this was an elderly gentleman from what I understand, so it won't be that. Maybe riding the clutch, taking off, and so forth. There's a mark there. It's not a crack. I think it's just a scratch. It looks like a scratch, yeah. So sometimes in severe cases your hot spots will actually form little cracks in them. The spigot bearing's in lovely condition. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to wipe this off. This can go back in. All I'm going to do, see, I'm going to get rid of that dust outside. I don't think there's any asbestos there though, because it's a reasonably recent clutch. So I'm just going to get some 120 and give that a bit of a rough up. Do this on EA Falcon discs to stop them squealing, and then we put copper grease behind them, or anti-squeal, that sort of red silicone sort of thing. I'm just going to go around on an angle and give it a rough up, and then I'm going to come back on that angle to crisscross it. It's a means to an end. It's something I've always done if I'm reusing a flywheel that hasn't been machined. This one has, but not for a while. I'm not going to machine it. Normally, you use emery cloth for this. It's a bit tougher than this wet and dry, but it's scratching it up, which is what I want. You can see some marks are there, but I'm not going to machine it over that. It is a little bit worn, but I think it's perfectly acceptable to put it back in. And of course we'll use our panel wipe, wax and grease or brake clean, whatever you want to, just to clean any of the residue off before you button the clutch up onto it. The only other thing we need to do with this is just to make sure that surface is squeaky clean. It's been sitting on the floor. This mating surface here is really clean and free of anything, and the same with the end of the crank, just to make sure, otherwise you'll get run out and that's not a good thing. I'm not sure if these are offset. It went in the first place I put it. I just want to make sure. You'll hear the tone change. You can use a Loctite on them. I'm not going to though. I always like it just to be nicely torqued down. Quite often I'll use a gun just to go around it and then I'll do a final torque on them. I'm not going to go into this too far. All I'm going to do is just stick a screwdriver in there and basically torque them all up. Just like that. I've just got to set the torque wrench up. The other thing is, it's probably better with an inline motor like that. It's easy, you can just sit on top of it, straddle it, and that way it's better supported, because if you sort of reef on these, then you'll go over, and that would be a bad day. Right, so I've got a clutch. I might have jumped the gun with this a little bit. The thrust bearing, which I thought was noisy, is absolutely silent. I've misdiagnosed that noise. It was the one part that I wanted to replace, and I haven't done anything to it, and I just don't think it needs replacing. You would always replace the thrust bearing if you do the clutch kit itself. Now we can get a cheap clutch for this, but I do have to watch what I spend, and I've also I'm of the mindset that when I change the engine eventually, I'll put a clutch in it then. I want to have it so I've got an engine with a clutch, a water pump, an alternator, all these sorts of things, and we just swap it over. Removing and refitting engines in these things from this one to the ones I've done in the past is a very, very quick exercise. The XD is another one where I'll have a new engine built for it, with the water pump, everything on, and we just drive it in the morning and drive it out in the afternoon. Bit harder with a turbocharged car because we've got to set all that up, but at the end of the day, I don't want to spend any time doing it. This has some wear on it, but I don't think it's bad. Who makes it? No idea. DHC, whoever they are. That's not worn. You can still see all the machine marks in it. All those machine marks are still there, and the flywheel doesn't look too bad either. Some manufacturers will have a specification where you measure the depth of the rivet to the face of the friction material, and they'll say 0.2, 0.3 millimeters and so forth. We're only 1.7. So it is well and truly serviceable, though Mitsubishi don't state in the manual for these things what that specification is. So I'm of the opinion that it would be quite an orthodox thing to stick this back in and save a bit of money. 1.7 again. What have we got here? 1.69. So, and we still zeroed, so that's cool. So, I don't know. I just think it would be in some ways pointless. If you look at this, there, we can see the branding on the clutch. The white ink they use when they stick the manufacturer's name on it. This clutch has been replaced not all that long ago. The other thing we can check, we've looked at the thrust bearing. Where can I put this? I'll put it there. The pressure plate itself, as we said, we can still see the machine marks in it. That's just dirt. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Slightly bluish, but that would be from resting your foot on the clutch or not using a handbrake to do a handbrake start. The other thing we need to look at is the integrity of the fingers, and that's well acceptable. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So, cool, yeah, it's a Japanese bearing too, and even these springs are tight. Yeah, I think we'll just put it back in. We'll give it a good clean. I should contact the original owner, see if he knows when it was done. Interestingly, in the manual, it says clutch type and it says molded woven asbestos. And I don't think they're allowed to use that anymore, so this won't be an asbestos one. This would have been manufactured quite a long time after that stuff was banned. We would really, in some ways, be wasting money by putting a clutch in this thing. When we build an engine up, we'll put a new clutch on, and of course, the alternator's got some wear on it, on this engine, and I want to use a new one, or at least rebuild one for it when we get down that road. But looking at this, you know, there's probably 80,000 Ks on that. You know, I'm only guessing. It's just a rough guess, but I don't think it's worth replacing. I think I'm just going to put it back in. So to clean this up, we're going to use a GP thinner. Oh, gee. I'll tell you what, I never used to use clutch lining tools. Now I can't see very well. I really need them. Clean these fingers off a bit. I'm going to stick a bit of grease around there. Just a little bit. And a bit on those little tabs in there. Again, we're not going to soak the thing. These are a bit of a pain. I remember taking them off being a bit confused, but they have to sort of stab in and then to a hole in here and then clip out and over. They're a bit of a nuisance to get on. Okay, what about like that? There we go. I don't like the fact that they look like they can come out so easily, just by... Still, they're there. I think the next thing, we'll just put a tiny bit. This has a bearing, not a bush, for the spigot. Just a bit of grease on there just to help it in. We don't need much, just a little hint of it. And then I reckon we push the bloody thing in. What do you think, hey? Well, let's do it. We're nearly there. Oh, I don't like doing that. Hang on. I just want to hang it on that bolt there like that. I'm not going to do anything. Okay, oh, it goes down there. I'm not going to zap them up, but I'm going to use the bolts to hold the top from putting pressure on the clutch. Because what I'm doing is essentially a bit unorthodox. Just wiggle the thing in. There we go, she's in. Beautiful. So we just zap these in with our fingers. Like that. Well, and we open up a glove and we're good. We just nip that up now. It's good when they're going finger tight. Just nip them up a bit. Stick the starter in. You can see that's sort of sitting there beautifully. There's no chance I've mixed it up with the forward one or whatever. But I like to do things up by hand so you can see they all fit properly. Didn't paint this one, and there's a bit of a wow in the sandwich plate, but it'll pull out nicely when we tighten this up. What? Yeah, that's just on the outside, but cool. It's good, and I feel really, really manly for having fitted this. I filled the gearbox before I put it in the car. I've tightened up that square drive thing down there. I'll just loosen this, and that way it's dead easy to fill here on the ground. Do that in. I've got the yoke in the back, which is there, so we can lift the engine with that. Is that a hole? Oh no, it's just grease. Yeah, we can lift the engine with the oil in the gearbox, and I should really clean it a bit more behind the bell housing there. But I didn't deem it that important because the underside of the car is not clean. So let's take stock. We've got that all ready to go. There's a transmission mount in the trailer, and there's also a bunch of cables which has got the reverse light cables on it, and also the speedo drive cable from the other side. That's in a box. Got to get the mounts. I need to have another look at these mounts. I think I will change those because one side was pretty oily, which was this side here. Everything's on, it's timed, it's plumbed. Not loving this here, but look, what do? I'll try it. And if it gives issues, well, we'll just have to revisit it. Need some belts for it. They're only the old belts. And the power steering belt's a little bit worse for wear, but it's good because it's still got its part number on there. I think that's about it. I think we can drop it in. We'll just get those mounts and then we can put it straight back. I do have to fit the cast rod housings to the car though, and put some of the front end back together, because I wouldn't dare wheel it around with an engine in it and no caster rods. So while we're in the mood to save a dollar like we have with the clutch, here are the mounts, and you wouldn't even think about using those. They're very soft and oil soaked and squidgy. I can actually pull them with my hand. That one's better. This is obviously off the driver's side, the right hand side. If you're an Englishman, on the off side, this is the near side. So that is so bad. These online are $39 plus about $8 postage. They're very, very cheap. The supplier I normally use, though, his prices are going up. I don't know if you can compete with that, so I'll go and see him and say, look, can you match it or whatever? But if you can't, I'll just order them. That's the thing that's keeping me putting the engine in now. Okay, so we're gearing up to put the engine back in. There's a few bits here which we need to talk about. The cast rod housings here, they're beautifully done. The only thing I've done is I've run an 125 tap through where the stabilizer bar goes. Now the sway bar is actually threaded through the housing. Okay. On both sides, obviously. So they need to go in. The other thing is we've got the nolithane bushings underneath, which we need to lubricate before they go in back there. And we also need to wrap a bit of bubble wrap around here so that it's protected from scratching and all this sort of business. And once it's in and sitting there, we can take the bubble wrap off, put the bushes on, secure it and all this sort of stuff. So there's a few bits and pieces we need to think about as we do it. Just in order to keep it sort of, I mean, you can knock it around and scratch it and chip and all this, but we want to keep it looking nice. And so we'll start getting into that now. I'm just going to stick a bit of this stuff around. Just to keep me from scratching it. Now, it's not the end of the world if we do. It's better if we don't. There we go. Just like that. And the same on the other side. What have we been doing on this thing? We're still going to take these out and clean them up when we go to put the grill and the bumper and all that sort of stuff on. Powder coated stuff, they're just sitting there for now. No big deal. Sway bars in. Had to use longer hardened fasteners just to get around those white line urethane type bushes. Cast rod housings are in. That all looks rather nice. Battery tray. These ones were the ones that I used 5/16 pine on, but that's nice. That's all sitting there nicely. So we're ready to put the engine in. Got to take the bonnet off, clean underneath it. I've got the right sticker, but this is all written in Japanese. I don't think they came like that. But I don't know what's under them, so if there's yellow or you know, something like that, we'll just leave them there. But you can see it needs a good clean up. So it's all looking fairly good from here. I got that power steering thing. I rattle canned that and didn't like it, so that just went in the bag of plating. But that's all good. You can see the sway bars there. The link bolts I changed, but the rest of the hardware is all the same. Ditto on that side there. So yeah, it's all sort of looking alright. You know, I haven't painted underneath the cross member. You can see it's grotty, and up here you can see some of that yellow. So I'll just brush paint that later, but the rest of it's all looking fairly decent, so I'm not worried about that. We can... you would normally put the sump tray on after. It's not that big of a deal really, because there's nothing, it only finishes sort of down here, so there's nothing forward of that we need to get underneath the car for. The rest of it, sort of the exhaust and all that sort of stuff, is over here. And all your plumbing and so forth. In fact, that tray might save us from dropping bits and pieces. We can just pick it up. I might chuck that in. Yeah, I think I will. That's the insulation for the tunnel I forgot to put in, which was really, really smart. The handle, did I mention that? The interior handle, we needed a new one. I got one out of the red car that went to the crusher, but it's just too pitted. This was 20 bucks or... no, it's $15 plus postage. Very cheap. The only thing that worries me a bit is it's that brand. Which is the same as this brand, who make the Ford ones, which are dreadful. So, look, it'd be pretty unusual, or pretty unlikely that would be dreadful. It's probably just, you know, it is what it is sort of thing. So I'll stick that on. I'm not going to put that on yet. And the interior stuff, I've got to get the heat air core looked at. And aside from that, that can all go back in. So, yeah, you know, things like all these clamps for hoses and bits and pieces can all go back in. Some of that's brake line, I think. I've got to kind of try and remember where it all goes. Look, I'm just going to stick the sump back. I'll stick the sump thing on. Milo can, this is empty. The muffler we can't get anymore. So we're going to make a patch out of a Milo can to stick to the muffler to get it down to Croydon, because Dale at Ace is going to put a muffler on it very reasonably for me, using the original overaxle pipe. And I cut it just where the joint is, so I might have to rejoin it and get the car down there to him. But we can't do that until we've got brakes and all that sort of stuff on our little Sigma. And I'm going to colour sand it sooner than later, because I want to put all this door furniture back on and all the trims and what do you call it, the drip rail mouldings and all this sort of stuff. And I'm doing something I hate. I'm going ultra conservative. I'm just going to use a silver stripe, and the reason for that is because I wanted to use red badges with a red stripe. But while we've got it looking stock, I'm just going to stick all the silver stuff back on. The red ones are off GK, GSRs and that sort of stuff, and I haven't been able to find any. Rightio. This is completely unnecessary. We've already said that, but I just feel like sticking it on for something to do. Where's the hole? The hole's up there. So it goes something like that. It does feel out of shape though. Oh, there it is. It's not out of shape. It's me being a dill, not knowing how it goes. Alright. Yeah, as we said, absolutely, completely and fundamentally unnecessary doing this. But sometimes the most fun things in life are unnecessary. I must do everything manually, you know, by hand. Today I can't be asked. I'm just going to do it this way. And I'll tighten it by hand. And this one here. Oh, that hurt. That serves me right for not doing it by hand. It doesn't get much better than that, does it? Completely unnecessary putting that on. The fact is though, the engine will sit on those pedestals there, so nothing will contact. It can just stay there. If it gets in the way, I can just rip it off in about 2 seconds. It's very, very quick to do. A lot of dust over things on top of the idler arm there, that'll wipes off anything dull you see, and the little white spots of buffing compound. We can get rid of all that. I might just re-secure those lines over there. So I'm happy with that. The front end's completely rebushed. Oh, I didn't show you that. I put that into the support stone. That was the bit that had to weld on the top. The only problem with this is it was rusty and that was missing. So that's off the old one. But the rest of it's all as you know. Okay, engine mounts. We've got our new ones here. They look rather lovely. They're the same both sides. It looks like there's a slot, or there is a slot in here where you would think it's to sort of situate the engine better, but it's got that protrusion and a small hole there. They come with their own nut, obviously, which is a 14mm. The original ones were 17mm, but the interior thread, which I'm tipping that's actually a metric thread. It looks like imperial thread. It looks like a 3/8 fine. So probably standardised, but I'll use those washers there. I don't know if you can see, they're the washers. They're kind of funny, these engine mounts, because they sort of sit like that, and they've got these, you can't bolt the engine up to the cross member there, you've got this sleeve that sort of sits over, that offers some sort of reinforcement for it. So when we put them on, we've got to just have the sleeve sitting over. We can pop them over later, but before the engine goes in, we do have to put that on. So it looks like we're going to be putting these on the engine, not on the car, and tightening them accordingly. I can't see any point in doing it another way, but you can see that sort of adjustment there. There's quite a lot of it there, but the dowel or the locating bit really only just fits in there. There we go. So that can only go that way, and of course, as we said before, when we go to bolt the engine up, we just slip those guys over and bolt it up to the car, to the cross member. Don't look too close, it's quite dirty. There's this combined sort of loom. It has the speedo drive on it, the reverse lights on it. There's also an earth. These are quite well earthed. That's from the gearbox that travels down onto the side of the car, the inside of the rail, and it earths against that. There's also another major one on the engine block, sorry, that goes off to the body before it gets to the battery. So this is just held in with a sur here, and there's a bolt. And it started raining outside, so I'm coming in, and we'll just take that out. I always wrap stuff up in sandwich bags. It just helps keep it a bit cleaner. We're using a blade. There we go. And it will keep it clean. Actually, it's a bit oily. I might just give that a wipe. Just after I put it in. Is that O-ring alright? Yes, that still feels soft. There we go. And we'll just use that to wipe it off, hey? How clever are we today? Right, so we just use that sur on here to hold the drive in. And that will also, I'm just going to move the lights so I can see what I'm doing. Gee, it is dirty, isn't it? I haven't done a great job cleaning the gearbox. I didn't think there was much point. Cool. And then we can just run those over onto the reverse light switch, which is here. One in there, one in there too. Right, so then we can just clean this up a bit more, because something's holding on to one end of it. But really, I'm not going to go overboard with this, because it's under the car and we didn't really clean up under the car, we left it. But we now know how everything goes, and we'll just tie this off to the side of the engine. So when we lift the engine in, it's not going to get in the way. Well, I've got this ready to put in, and I can't do it at the moment. I've got rain and the Plymouth. It's got crap all over it at the moment, but there's no glass in, so I can't push it outside and leave it there. It'll fill up with water. So basically what we've got is we've got this leveler. I don't normally use levelers. I've only ever used this once on the XC. Normally I just use a chain. I just thought it might be a bit easier. I've sort of strapped these up because they're designed for a V8. Not a little four banger like this. I've got the old cover on there, so if it scratches up and gets damaged, I don't really care. I wanted to have the belts on, but too many issues I should say, with the power steering one. It's the second one I've tried, and it's still right at the end of its adjustment, so I want to get on the power steering belt for it. So I want to have all that on, but we don't. Doesn't matter. This loom here, a little bit worried about. It's quite rigid, so I've got to be careful when I put the thing in, in terms of damaging that. Normally, engines are very, very easy to put in if you leave the engine still and roll the car into it, and sort of steer it in that way. But with garage door and no room and all that sort of stuff, I'm not sure how that's going to fly. So I think in the meantime, we'll just fill the gearbox up, and that way that job's done, so I don't have to fill it under the car, and then we'll just wait the weather out. Alright, so it's much easier sort of filling this while it's on the ground and in the car. This is Penrite. I'm annoyed with myself because Penrite offered me a kind of a partnership where let me just make sure I'm not going to spill everywhere. We're basically subtle advertising for them by having sort of their product in the background while I'm doing intros and stuff like that. And then the way they worded it was, your channel, your content, the way you want to do it is your choice. And I never called them back. I had an email from a chap, but I should have answered him back and I didn't, so I sort of missed the boat with that. I would have got lubricants and been able to promote a pretty good product. There have been a lot of people that have been approached by networks and this sort of stuff, and they basically ripped them off. So the YouTube creator doesn't have control over what they had or what they're doing. You're sort of owned by the show or the network, and you get paid very little. And I would never do that. There's no way in a fit to get my head on a Discovery show or anything. I would never do that because I'm not interested. This is stress-free. This is fun. This is a hobby. I'm not interested in selling out. Because at the moment I've got a job that I get stressed over. This is a hobby which I just don't get stressed over. It's just a barrel of laughs, really. And so I would never go down that road. But the Penrite thing, yeah, that does annoy me. Alright, so we've just got to top this up. We're almost there, and we're almost out. It's a 2.5 litre bottle. This is what I used in the XC, in the 4-speed gearbox in the XC. I reckon we're going to run out when we get right on the money. It's right there. Oh, how's that for a guess? How is that for a guess, guys? 2.5 litre bottle, and we're there. You can see it dripping out there, so that's cool. Copped a break in the weather, so I've moved the Plymouth outside. So we need to get this on the move. Don't want to bounce around too much. Well, I think it might be time to stick the engine in. Running out of daylight, which doesn't matter. And there's a couple of issues with this. It doesn't lift straight, and I don't know if the legs on the cherry picker, they couldn't get them underneath the control arms before, so I've got that jack there. I've just knocked the handle, taken the extension off it. I want to lift it up and then roll the car into it. I don't know if it's going to be possible, but it doesn't matter. We'll give it a go, and if it all goes belly up, well, that's my fault. I might just throw a sheet on here or something to try and avoid the inevitable. So try and protect it a bit, hey? Anyway, let's lift him up and throw him in. Looking a little bit tight. Let's keep jacking him up. A little bit worried about the height of the door. Well, keep going. Don't worry. You reckon I can do it? Ah, this is fun. What do you think? Now I'm above the door. I've never fit an engine like this, but normally I do it inside, but there's no room because the weather's crappy. So one thing I'll do, I'll remove the jack from under the car. In fact, I might just throw it back here, and we'll see if we can wheel the car into it. I need to chop because this thing's rolling. Hang on a sec, just let me find a piece of wood. Okie dokie, so I'll go back a bit further. And this is a bit I'm worried about because, yeah, I got no hope because I'm going to hit that tyre. So that's not much good. So, if I move him back a bit to try and clear that, it's going to be tight. I'll bring him round that. Might luck out, guys. What do you think? We'll keep going. If in doubt, just keep going. Well, that's wrong. That's bad advice. I think it's going to hit. Which way is that going? No, it's going the wrong way. We'll just grab that. We'll do some tilting. This is quite interesting. Quite interesting, really. Something always wants to come off. That's still recording. Yes, we're still recording. Might be able to peel a bit of height off it. I'm worried about the thing there, so I might have to put a hell of an angle on it, really. Get it right down. Just so I can get some of this height out and move it back a bit. Yes?
Can I make you a cup of tea?
No, just have one, thanks, love. I'm just trying to put this engine in.
Well,
You can have some tea yourself if you want.
can...
No, I just got across from the dog ate mine. Okay. This is not working, so we have to put a bit of height into this. Just to... Oh, shit, that's not good. Hang on. Just to clear... That might have worked. Okay, let's take some height out. There. And I think we need more angle, guys. What do you think? Yep, we do. We'll get there. Do you have confidence in me? I might put a rag on the back of that too. Don't want to scratch over that nice painted firewall. There we go. Okie dokie. More angle. Getting right up the front. I think we're nearly out of angle there. So go forward a bit more with the car. And I reckon we're nearly there, boys and girls. Yep, and so we can start peeling some height off. Wouldn't that be good? Now, let me survey and see what the story is now. We got the sump pan, maybe a bit more height, so I can get the tunnel there, end of the gearbox under the tunnel. This is like a 351. Those things are tight, but in some ways they're easier than this. Okay. So we've got to go back a bit more. Like that. What do you think now? A bit more height maybe? We've only got about 1.5 centimetres there, but we're right on there now. Can we go back a bit further? Geez, that's tight as a fish's ass. I've got no adjustment left. Okay, we need to have a bit of a think. Just a minute. So, here we are, just touching the edge of my beautifully repaired radiator support pedal. And we're against the tunnel there. So what I reckon we do, I think we push it in to clear that and then start taking height off. And then we can level the thing out a bit more. I've left the cross member on, probably gutsy, but I don't care about that. And she's looking pretty good. Do you like it? So there's good and bad here. We're scratching the top of the tunnel, I think. I can pop some more height out of this, I think. Okay. I'm also worried about these guys, my speedo cable and such. But I think that's enough radius there to be harmless. So therefore we keep going. Isn't this fun? Okay. We can probably start to, how much tension's on that? Bugger all, good. Okay, so what we'll do now is we're going to start leveling the thing out. So we go that way. And bring it over and just taking height off it as we level it. That's the easiest way to do it. I think it is. So we'll go down a little bit more. Oh, look at that. Isn't that nice? And we can level more. We can see we're clearing the tunnel now. So, what was I doing? Oh yeah, this. No, we go that way. It's a pain in the ass to turn this way. It's a lot harder. Hang on a minute. Yeah, come on. That's it. Good boy. Oh, that is so sweet. And I'm getting past steering. I freaking love that bit. Okay. A bit more height, do you think? Oh, look at that. We do have to take that crap out though, because I don't want to destroy the wiring. So we'll hook him around there. More of this stuff. And then we can put a nice new cover on, but it's going to look really dandy. This is so freaking easy. This car's been fun because it's just so basic. Although I was worried about the height of the garage. Okay, a bit more. A little bit more. We've got to watch our alternator. And the steering pump over there, which looks fairly good. There's a lot more room on the other side. Oh. Stay there, mate. Let's have another look. Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. So far, we could still stuff it up. But I reckon we're alright. Kind of out of the woods for now. Let's go again. Hang on, which way are we going? Down that way. And we've taken the bulk of the weight off the thing, the forward part of the engine, so it's all much sort of smoother to get in. I was just worried about the ground clearance, really. And we're on our pads there. Maybe leveling a bit more here. And that will make it easy to sort of just bolt it up. Let me have a look now. Can I shift this back? I reckon we're ready for bolts almost. Let's have a look on the other side, just a moment. Alright, so the problem I've got is the bias on the engine from the way I lifted it. It's not quite right. I've got to lift it up. I might throw, where's the hole? Here it is. Might throw that in there. So I've just crawled around underneath and on the gearbox up. I think there's some rain coming. Is that going to be lined up now? No. That's not lined up. Where's the hole? The other side's on. That was easy. This one's not quite there yet. I need a small screwdriver. it might even be easier ditching. Yep, I think I better hang on to it. That way I can unhook that, lie you down so I don't smack the crap out of everything. I'll put the jack under there, hang on. Oh crap, that wasn't good. Let's get this off there. Let's get them off the rails and just pull the car back, I think. Easy, does it? Now we can go back. Good. Excellent. Alright, we'll just tighten these up. These now, so I'll put the shells on. And I'll just put a block of wood under the sump just to lift the engine a bit, just to give me a bit of moving around room. And guys, we're done. Keep going with this one. Just remove some of our creative bracketry. So that we can take this leveler off. Jeez, I pulled that in. Hang on a minute. We're nearly good, guys. We're nearly good and we're nearly finished. For today, I'm not going to hook anything up today. It's just a matter of getting it all out the way and make it look more finished than what it really is. And as we keep saying, the pièce de résistance is a lovely new looking rocket cover. And I'll tell you what, I've got to put a gasket on it and seal up the half moons and all that business. But for now, I think we can call today's work a success. That goes that way, I think. Look at that, it's already starting. I think I might have mucked up that vacuum line though, because I think there's a port missing. And the one down in the manifold, I think, is for the air cleaner. But who cares for now? We'll get that sorted out later. So do you like the way we just made it? It's raining outside again. So in the next video, we shall hook all this up, stick the exhaust on, all that sort of business. And just all the fun stuff, all the lines and all that crap. That's all good. I like doing that stuff. The radiator, thermostat, some hoses, all that business. I had to, interestingly, it was probably going to be easy dropping it onto the studs, but I didn't want to, because the little locator on there was really hard with that heat shield. I've bent the heat shield out of the way to tighten up the mount down there, so it's all nice and solid and good, so I just bent that heat shield down. But yeah, look, that's it. I'm very happy with it. So I do hope you've enjoyed this. It's been another long one, but I wanted to show you more of the engine installation in really quite adverse conditions, you know, with the door in the way and the legs of the cherry picker hitting the lower control arms and the rain and all this sort of stuff. But it was fun. It was fun and it wasn't too difficult. Anyway, on that note, thanks very much for watching. Take good care of yourselves, enjoy a classic, and I'll see you around.